माधव। जय राधा माधव, जय कुंज बिहारी। जय राधा माधव, जय कुंज बिहारी। जय गोपी जन वल्लभा, जय गिरिवराधारी। जय गिरिवराधारी। जय यशोधनन्दना, जय व्रजजनरञ्जना। जय यमुना तीरवनचारी, जय कुंज बिहारी। जय यमुना तीरवनचारी, जय कुंज बिहारी। जय राधा माधव, जय कुंज बिहारी। जय राधा माधव, जय कुंज बिहारी। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। जय गौरानिताय जय गौरानिताय। जय कृष्ण बलराम, जय कृष्ण बलराम, कृष्ण बलराम जय कृष्ण बलराम। जय राधा श्याम सुंदर राधा, श्याम सुंदर राधे। जय जय प्रभुपाद, प्रभुपाद जय प्रभुपाद। जय जय गुरुदेव, गुरुदेव। जय गुरुदेव नित्य गौर हरि बोल, हरि बोल, हरि बोल, गौर हरि बोल। हरि नाम संकीर्तन की जय, हरे कृष्ण महामंत्र की जय, निताय गौ प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय, ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय, ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं, देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्। नष्टप्रायेषु अभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया, भगवती उत्तम श्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्ठिकी। ओम अज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपा कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरु श्रीयुतापदकमलं Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam साग्रजातं सहगणा रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्ण चैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सहगणा ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च हे कृष्ण करुणा सिन्धो दीनबन्धो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कान्ता राधा कान्ता नमोऽस्तुते तप्त काञ्चन गौराङ्गी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिभृङ्ग गोविन्द स्वामिनिति नामिने नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिनिति नामिने नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधरा श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंदा हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्णा हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे मूकं करोति वाचालं पङ्गुं लङ्घयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे श्रीगुरुं दीनतारिणं परमानन्दं माधवं चैतन्यजगदीश्वरं कथाञ्चन स्मृते यस्मिन् दुष्करं सुकरं भवेत् विस्मृते विपरीतं स्यात् श्रीचैतन्यनमामितं हरे कृष्ण devotees. One second, I'll Rao Prabhu, is my audio is clear?
Yes, Guruji.
Yes,
Is there
Prabhu.
any disturbance, Prabhu?
No disturbance, Prabhu.
Okay. My window is on. I think just I'll close that and come. Give me a second.
हाँ प्रभु, थोड़ा वॉइस में थोड़ा क्लैरिटी थोड़ा कम था.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. How is it now?
Yeah, this is better.
It's fine. It's fine, Prabhu.
Okay. Hare Krishna devotees, please accept my humble obeisances. Thank you for assembling here. So today is Ashtami of Falguna Masa. It's very auspicious, and we all assembled here to study Srimad Bhagavatam on Zoom platform. So Srimad Bhagavatam is the spotless Purana. In the very first chapter, the second verse, Srila Vasudev glorifies this verse as Dharma projito kaitavatra paramo nirmatsaranam satam Vetyam vastavamatra vastu shivadham tapatrayonmulanam Srimad Bhagavate Mahamuni Krute Kim va parai Ishvaraha Sadyo hrudi avarudyate atra kritibihi shushrushubihi tatshanat. Maybe Rao Prabhu, you can show that for the devotees. 112. So in this verse, it is stated that Dharma projyato kaitava atra paramo nirmatsaranam satam. Meaning, there are religious which are materially motivated. But this Srimad Bhagavatam is not like that. So it says Dharma projyata kaitava atra means kaitava means cheating propensity. Okay, so projita means giving up. Dharma means religion. By giving up the religion which is material motivated. So why Srila Vasudeva is saying this verse, this sentence here, because uh, before compiling Srimad Bhagavatam, he has compiled so many other Puranas, Upanishads, and also the four Vedas. And in that, most of the things he focused on the Dharmartha Kama Moksha. Means he has given only, he stressed on four Purusharthas. So the devotees, like us, we are ignorant. So we see, okay, Srila Vasudev has given, okay, so let's follow that. So means in one sense, Vasudev has misguided the people. That's what, when he meet Narad Muni also says, okay, you are misleading the people, because you have stressed so much on Dharmartha Kama Moksha. So you have totally forgot the essence, which is the essence is the pure devotional service to Lord Krishna. So he is compelling in the very second verse, Vasudevji states this verse, Dharma Projato Kaitava Atra Paramo. It's the very highest. Nirmatsaranam Satam. The Srimad Bhagavatam is meant for those who are non-envious. So there is when there is no room for a person who is studying Srimad Bhagavatam and having Matsara in his heart. Nirmatsara means non-envious. And Vedyam Vastavam Atra Vastu Shivadham. So this Vedyam Vastavam, this is the reality eh, um, realized by the spiritual realization. And Shivadam, Shiva means auspicious. It brings all auspiciousness to the devotees who study Srimad Bhagavatam. And not only that, what else it does? Tapatrayo unmoolanam. So it it uproots the three folds of material miseries. We know Tapatraya, right? Adhyatmik, Adi Bhautik, and Adi Daivik. And it doesn't, cut it there. For example, it uproots, means like if there is a tree, if there is a plant, if you try to chop the plant, so it sprouts again, right? After the rainy season, again it start coming up. So in order to remove, if you want to totally remove the plant, what you have to do? You have to uproot it. Means you have to remove right from the root of a plant. Okay, so that's the Srimad Bhagavatam does. So like, we can see the other example also, like our allopathy versus Ayurvedic. Ayurvedic, what does it do? It try to focus on the uh, root of the disease and it try to cure that. But our allopathy is not like that. Just he give you, just immediately you'll get the relief from the whatever the suffering we are undergoing. But it doesn't focus on uprooting from the root. So this similarly here, Srimad Bhagavatam, it uproots the three folds of material miseries. And Srimad Bhagavate Mahamuni Krute. So this is Srimad Bhagavatam written by Mahamuni. Mahamuni is who? Srila Vasudev. Kim va para Ishvaraha. Then what is the use of any other scriptures? So Sadyo Hrudi Avarudyate. When a sincere devotee, he starts studying the Srimad Bhagavatam. So what Lord does? Lord comes and he sits in his heart and he immediately, it doesn't take much time, immediately Lord will come and sit in the heart of a devotee who studies Srimad Bhagavatam. So that is the glories of Srimad Bhagavatam. Our Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, Srila Prabhupada's spiritual master, he would say, let all the literatures on this world, let it get destroyed. But if Srimad Bhagavatam alone left, there is no loss because Srimad Bhagavatam contains everything. So, so that is the potency of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Once again, I thank you all. We all assembled here to just, go through the Srimad Bhagavatam. So, thank you once again for sparing your valuable time. And now we are in the second canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, chapter 3. This chapter is entitled Devotional Service and the Change in Heart. So far we have covered 19 verses. Can we quickly recap what we have understood so far in this chapter? Rao Prabhu, Uday Prabhu, Nehal, Sushil Kumar. Whatever you remember from the previous classes, you can share.
Shaunak Rishi is telling mainly about the qualities of the devotional service.
Yeah.
I think
Like,
in reply to the sages, he is now just glorifying the use of devotional service. And in all these verses, say like in verse number 13, they have mentioned some 26 qualities of the devotees. And then in 14, they have sent about what is the where the Sut Goswami has described more about Hari. And then in verses like 17, Sut Goswami said, by each day which is passing, our life decreases, except of those who are only utilizes their time in discussion of Krishna. Duration of the life increases if we are involved in the Krishna consciousness or we are in the devotional service of the Lord.
okay.
Rather, in 18, he gave example of trees and blacksmiths' bellows, that they also have a life, but without any spiritual touch. They are just dead. They are just treated like dead. Living long life is not good without spirituality. This was in a nutshell what we discussed last night.
Very, very nice, Sushil Prabhu. Thank you very much. Big clap for you. Thank you so much, Prabhu. Yeah, so that's what Prabhu, I mean, in this chapter, it is explained. Basically, it explains about demigod worship, about pure devotional service. So, in the previous chapter, there was a question asked by Shaunakas, about the devotional service, especially what a dying man should do. So for that, like Shukadev Goswami has explained the path of bhakti, path of direct mukti and krama mukti. So, and also then an intelligent person will engage in bhakti. So that's what he told. Now, in this chapter, he is explaining the activities of those who are not intelligent among them. So we have seen, like from text number 2 to 9. So what the paths chosen by the less intelligent people, they take up to the demigod worship. So we should not misunderstood, like why we are criticizing demigod worship, because we are not against demigod worship. So basically, we don't get the result what is required. In Bhagavad Gita, what does Krishna says about demigod worship? He says the demigods, whatever they give, their result is very temporary. So as long as we are living in this world, their benediction is applicable. Their boons are applicable. But once if we leave the body, so it's gone, right? So it's like temporary. Like for example, the verse he quotes is Antavattu phalam tesham tad bhavati alpamedasam, right? So less intelligent people, they worship demigods, and their fruits are very temporary. So as soon as we leave this body, or like maybe like if somebody is worshipping, say he is very he wants lot of money, so whom he does worship? He worship Durga Devi. So to get very material, mm, like material opulence he wants to get, he worship some demigod. So we might get it also. So, but how long can we do that? When we end our life here, will be able to take anything with us? Nothing, right? So, whereas on the contrary, the Srimad Bhagavatam, it gives you the knowledge about Krishna, so which is eternal. Even by some reason, if we have to take one more birth, but it's stated we continue from where we left off. For example, in material education, suppose I may be a master degree in engineering or whatever, but the moment I leave my body, again when I take birth, again I have to start from ABCD. But spiritual knowledge is not like that. So we will continue from where we have left off. In Bhagavad Gita, 6th chapter, Krishna gives this. He says, "Prapya punya shutam lokan ushitva shashvati samaham shuchinam srimatam gehe yogo brasto bijayate." So there was a question asked by Arjun. What Krishna if a yogi, because of some reason, he has become unsuccessful? What will happen to him? For that, Krishna replies, so he will take birth in the family of aristocrat or brahmanas. Means if he take birth in the brahmana family, he will be having an opportunity. He can engage in the devotional service from the day one. So there are so many examples we have seen. Like you must have. There is a one viral, one video which is in the social media. It has become so much viral. One small boy, he goes and preach to the people. He was called for a TV show. So there they ask, "What's hello?" Then that boy says, "Hi, hello, Chodo. Hare Krishna bolo." Then he says, "What's your name?" He says, "My name is Bhagavata Das." Then he gives, like he knows so many verses of Bhagavad Gita. So this is evident. And also, like recently in Dubai, we were fortunate to have Bhagavat Sapta from Amrendra Prabhu. So did any one of you attend his classes?
No, no, Prabhu, we could not attend it.
Okay, at least online it's available, Prabhu, on YouTube. Whenever you find time, please log in. He's just 32 years, 32 years, Prabhu. He knows literally all the scriptures, not only Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita. You take Shiva Puran, you take Agni Puran, anything and everything you saw. And he quotes the verses like, just, he's drinking water, such a, fluent um flow of the verses. So from this we can understand it's not, this is from this birth. It is accumulation of his previous birth. So this is what it is. So now, so in the, again coming back to this chapter from verse number 2 to 9, Shukadeva Goswami explains various process of, or the demigod worship. The less intelligent people take the demigod worship. So they will take, they start worshipping Brahma, Indra, Prajapati, Durga, Vishnu, Shiva, Moon, all those things they do because of some particular desires they have. Then, as in the 10th verse, he says, like akamo sarva kamova moksha kama udharadi. As an intelligent person, what he does, like for example, we devotees of Krishna, so like we have no one. Suppose like we have some desires also, right? Like for example, uh, like our Mani Prabhu, who is the father of our Shivala Prabhu, he would give one, one example. For example, a chaste lady, okay, a chaste wife. So whatever she needs, like she requires some, some saris, some jewelries or something, she has to ask her husband only, right? So she cannot go and ask someone else. Similarly, in this verse, like it's stated that akamo sarva kamova, whether one is with one with desires, or one without any desire, or somebody is having desire for liberation. So what they do, they take up to the process of Krishna Bhakti with that how Tivrena Bhakti Yogena, with a great intensity they take up. So then so on he explains. Then from verse number, then Shaunuka Rishi inspires Suta Goswami to speak more. So he wants to hear more about this devotional service. Then as Sushil Prabhu has quoted the verse, like the best utility of time is Ayur Harati Vaipumsam Udyan Astanchayannaso Tasyarte Yatkshano Nitha Uttama Shloka Vartaya. So both by rising and setting, sun decreases the duration of all living entities except those who are engaged in devotional service. So then in the 19th verse, he talked about animalistic people, those whose ears have never heard about Krishna are glorified by those people who are like dogs, pigs, camels, and donkeys, right? Yeah, this is the verse. Swavit varahostra karai samshruta purusha pashuhu nayat karna patopetho jatu nama gadagrajaha. So say that men who are like dogs, hogs, camels, and asses, they praise those who never listen to the transcendental pastimes of the Supreme Lord, Lord Krishna, the deliverer from the evils. So that's what has been discussed. Now we will go to the another 5 verses today. So this verse number 20 is very, very beautiful verse. Okay. Below Bilebato Nukrama Vikramanye Nashunvata Karnapute Narasya Jihvasati Darduri Kevasuta Nachopa Gayate Urugaya Gataha.
One who has not listened to the messages about the prowess and marvelous acts of the personality of the Godhead, and has not sung or chanted loudly the worthy songs about the Lord, is to be considered to possess ear holes like the holes of snakes, and a tongue like the tongue of a frog. Devotional service to the Lord is rendered by all limbs or parts of the body. It is the transcendental dynamic force of the spirit soul. Therefore, a devotee is engaged 100% in the service of the Lord. One can engage in the devotional service when the senses of the body are purified in relation with the God, Lord, and one can render service to the Lord with the help of all the senses. As such, the senses and the action of the senses are to be considered impure or materialistic as long as they are employed only in sense gratification. The purified senses are engaged not in the sense gratifications, but in the service of the Lord in toto. The Lord is the supreme with all senses, and the servitor, who is the part and parcel of the Lord, also had the same senses. Service to the Lord is the completely purified use of the senses as described in the Bhagavad Gita. The Lord imparted instructions with full senses, and Arjuna received them with full senses. And thus there was a perfect exchange of sensible and logical understanding between the master and the disciple. Spiritual understanding is nothing like an electrical charge from the master to the disciple, as foolishly claimed by some propaganda mongers. Everything is full in sense and logic, and the exchange of views between the master and the disciple is possible only when the reception is submissive and real. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, it is said that one should receive the teaching of Lord Chaitanya with intellect and full senses so that one can logically understand the great mission. In the impure state of the living being, the various senses are fully engaged in mundane affairs. If the ear is not engaged in the service of the Lord by hearing about Him from Bhagavad Gita or Srimad Bhagavatam, certainly the holes of the ear will be filled with some rubbish. Therefore, the messages of Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam should be preached all over the world very loudly. That is the duty of a pure devotee who has actually heard about them from the perfect sources. Many want to speak something to the others, but because they are not trained to speak on the subject matter of Vedic wisdom, they are all speaking nonsense, and people are receiving them with no sense. There are hundreds and thousands of sources for distributing mundane news of the world, and people of the world are also receiving it. Similarly, the people of the world should be taught to hear the transcendental topics of the Lord, and the devotee of the Lord must speak loudly so that they can hear. The frogs loudly croak, with the result that they invite the snakes to eat them. The human tongue is especially given for chanting the Vedic hymns and not for croaking like frogs. The word asati used in the verse is also significant. Asati, asati, asati means a woman who has become a prostitute. A prostitute has no reputation for good womanly qualities. Similarly, the tongue, which is given to the human being for chanting the Vedic hymns, will be considered a prostitute when engaged in chanting some mundane nonsense.
Thank you, Sushil Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Thank you. So, in another 5 verses, like verse number 20 to 24, so different limb of a person is explained by Sutta Goswami. So, in this particularly in this verse, Bile Batonukrama Vikramanye. So here he is comparing Karnaputa, means ear holes. So like he's in this, it stated that here, if one is not hearing the glories of the Lord, is nothing but their ears like a holes of a snake, and the one who doesn't glorify the Krishna, his tongue like is a tongue of a frog. So we know that this uh, ears also, I mean the snakes have got uh, holes, but it cannot hear any sound. So like we also, if we don't engage our ears in the service of the hearing the glories of Krishna, then our ear holes also like holes of a snake, which is of no use. Like we all have tendency, right? We are listening to some music or other, like some Bollywood music or something, so we keep on murmuring that, we keep on listening that. So instead instead of doing that, if listen to some lectures, or if you can listen to some kirtans, you can listen to some mantras, it purifies the heart. Otherwise these mundane topics, it unnecessarily drags us. Similarly, all the senses should be engaged in the service of the Lord. Of course, in this verse, only the tongue and ear are given. So as we go in other verses, all the body is given. So how can one engage the sense object as ears? By listening to the Krishna Katha. So in Nectar of Devotion, Srila Rupa Goswami explains that he gives a definition of Uttama Bhakti. What is he gives a definition of a bhakti, which says that Sarvopadi Vinurmuktam Tat Paratvena Nirmalam Rishikena Rishikesha Sevanam Bhaktir Uchyate. It means bhakti means engaging all our senses in the service of the Lord, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the master of all senses. When the spirit soul, when we render service to him, then there are two things happen to us. What is that? Sarvopadi Vinur Muktam. You will be freed from all your material designation. And second one is Tat Paratpena Nirmalam. So all our senses will purified. So then by when these two things happen, we can engage our service we engage our senses in the service of the Lord. So like we have seen, right? There are people want to hear so many things. There are so many news channels, and unnecessary they have discussion on that. For example, a cricket match. So we had World Cup, where India won all 10 matches, 11 match we lost. Okay, and the match happened, it's for like 3.5 hours. That was the duration of the match. But afterwards, the TV channels, they started about discussion about this uh, this cricket match for many many hours, and there are people who watch that. So it's like doing a postmortem, right? So now everything is done. What's the use of, we lost it, that's all. Okay, whatever could be the reason. Unnecessary they spend their time in unwanted mundane discussions. Not only like this, now there are, nowadays you see there are so many news channels, right? And everybody is struggling hard, to promote their channel, to get their TRP. So similarly, we have so many newspapers which publish, uh, you know like more of mundane things. So when His Divine Grace Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he was alive, he started a newspaper. In fact, he started four newspaper. Then in Calcutta. Then one reporter asked him, Swami, Swamiji, why are you printing so many newspapers? Then Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said, in Calcutta alone, those days, there were more than 20 newspapers. So this is, we are talking about like 150 years ago. So, in one city, you have so many newspapers, but, Krishna's pastimes has got unlimited Leela. So only for this mundane things you can publish in 10 newspapers. What to speak of spiritual things? I can publish in million newspaper. Every second I can produce. This was the mood of Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. There is so much to be, discussed on the spiritual matters. Like, Ananta, who has got thousands of head. And he, till today, he keep on discussing the Leelas of Krishna, not repeating the one which is already described. So such is the glories of Krishna. There are so much things to be discussed and so much things to be heard about Krishna. But instead of using our these two senses in the in the devotional service, if we use this in other like material things, then here Sutta Goswami is comparing our limbs to as ears as the holes of a snake, and our tongue like tongue to be a tongue of a frog. So what does frog does? Frog does during rainy season, there'll be so much rain, and once the rain subsides, and these frog frogs, they start croaking. They would have keep quiet, but they started croaking. Then that attracts, the snakes. Then snakes comes there, and it eats the frogs. So we also unnecessarily talk some nonsensical things, and we attract the death. And also here in this verse, Prabhupada gives an example of asati. Asati means woman who is not having a proper attitude. So, like, if we don't engage our tongue, so, here it is, Sutta Goswami compares our tongue to be a asati, means we jihva sati, he says. Asati means if we don't engage in the glorification of the Lord, he compares our tongue to be a tongue of a asati, which means which is having a not proper attitude. So we move on to the next verse number 21. Yeah, yes, bro. भारापरं पत्तकिरीटजुष्टाम् अपि उत्तमाङ्गं न नमेन्मुकुन्दम् शावौ करौ न कुरुते सापर्याम् हरे लसत् कांचन कंकणौ वा.
Hare Krishna. Translation. The upper portion of the body, though crowned with a silk turban, is only a heavy burden if not bowed down before the personality of Godhead, who can award mukti, freedom. And the hands, though decorated with glittering bangles, are like those of a dead man if not engaged in the service of the personality of Godhead Hari. Purport. As stated herein before, as stated herein before, there are three kinds of devotees of the Lord. The first class devotee does not at all see anyone who is not in the service of the Lord. But the second class devotee makes distinctions between devotees and non-devotees. The second class devotees are therefore meant for preaching work, and as referred to in the above verse, they must loudly preach the glories of the Lord. The second class devotee accepts disciples from the section of third class devotees or non-devotees. Sometimes the first class devotee also comes down to the category of the second class devotee for preaching work. But the common man who is expected to become at least a third class devotee is advised herein to visit the temple of the Lord and bow down before the deity, even though he may be very rich man or even a king with a silk turban or crown. The Lord is the Lord of everyone, including the great kings and emperors, and men who are rich in the estimation of mundane people must therefore make it a point to visit the temple of Lord Sri Krishna and regularly bow down before the deity. The Lord in the temple in the worshipable form is never to be considered to be made of a stone or wood, for the Lord in his archa, in his archa incarnation as the deity in the temple shows immense favor to the fallen souls by his auspicious presence. By the hearing process, as mentioned here and before, this realization of the presence of the Lord in the temple is made possible. As such, the first process in a routine work of devotional service, hearing is the essential point. Hearing by all class of devotees from the authentic sources like Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam is essential. The common man who is puffed up with the material position and does not bow down before the deity of the Lord in the temple, or who defies temple worship without any knowledge of science, must know that his so-called turban or crown will only succeed in further drowning him in the water of the ocean of material existence. A drowning man with a heavy weight on his head is sure to go down more swiftly than those who have no heavy weight. A foolish puffed up man defies the science of God and says that has no meaning for him. But when he is in the grip of God's law and is caught by some disease like cerebral thrombosis, that godless man sinks into the ocean of nescience by the weight of his material acquisition. Advancement of material science without God consciousness is a heavy load on the head of a human society, and so one must take heed of this great warning. The common man, if he has no time to worship the Lord, may at least engage his hands for a few seconds in washing or sweeping the Lord's temple. Maharaja Prataparudra, the greatly powerful king of Orissa, was always very busy with heavy state responsibilities. Yet, he made it a point to sweep the temple of the Lord Jagannatha at Puri once a year during the festival of the Lord. The idea is that, however important a man one may be, he must accept the supremacy of the Supreme Lord. This God consciousness will help a man even in his material prosperity. Maharaja Prataparudra's subordination before Lord Jagannatha made him a powerful king, so much so that even the great Patan in his time could not enter into Orissa on account of the powerful Maharaja Prataparudra. And at last, Maharaja Prataparudra was raised by Lord Chaitanya and the very grounds of his acceptance of subordination to the Lord of the universe. So, even though a rich man's wife has a glittering bangle made of gold on her hands, she must engage herself in rendering service of the Lord. Jai Srila Prabhupada.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Prabhu. So in this verse, it talks about the upper portion of the body through a crown with a silk turban is only heavy burden if not bowed down before the personality of Godhead who can award mukti of freedom. And the hands, though decorated with glittering bangles, are like of a dead man if not engaged in the service of the personality of Godhead, Lord Hari. In the first verse, that is verse number 20, we talked about ear and tongues. So here we are talking about head and hands. So like, like as, Prabhupada has clearly explained here, if you put weight, if you put a crown on our head, and if that crown doesn't bow down in front of the Lord, it unnecessary, it creates, you know heavy weight on our head. So as rightly Prabhupada gives, if we have that much head weight, in our weight in our head, so when we sink in the ocean, so we are drowning very quickly, right? So similarly, if we don't uh, uh, engage in the service of the Lord, so unnecessary we get puffed up. So here Prabhupada, writes three kinds of devotees, which is Uttama Adhikari, Madhyama Adhikari, and Kanishta Adhikari. So Uttama Adhikari is the one, he does he doesn't make any difference with all living entities. In Bhagavad Gita also Krishna says, right? Vidya Vinaya Sampanne Brahmane Gavihastine Shuni Chaiva Shwapakecha Pandita Samadarshinaha. So Pandita, by virtue of his knowledge, he does not make any difference between a dog eater, elephant, and a Pandita. For him, everybody is the same. Similarly, the definition of Uttamadhikari is given in the 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. I think 11th canto, second chapter, where it is stated that Sarva Bhuteshu Yah Pashyet Bhagavad Bhavam Atmanaha Bhutani Bhagavatyatmani Yesha Bhagavatottamaha. Means the Bhagavatottama means first class devotee. He sees within everything the soul of the souls, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. Consequently, he sees everything in relation to the Supreme Lord and understand that everything that exists is eternally situated within the Lord. So this is the definition of Uttamadhikari, means he sees everyone with the equal vision. Then comes the Madhyamadhikari. Madhyamadhikari is stated that Ishvare Tat Adhineshu Balisheshu Dvishatsucha Prema Maitri Krupapeksha Yah Karoti Samadhyamaha. So Madhyamadhikari is the one, he offered his love to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, means Prema. Then Maitri, he make friendship with the devotees of the Lord. Then Krupapeksha, he shows the mercy those who are ignorant or who are lesser than him. And he and at the same time he reject the association who are envious of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So these are the four things. What is that? Prema, Maitri, Krupapeksha. Prema means love of the, he has got the love to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Maitri means he make friendship with the devotees of the Lord. Krupa means he showers his mercy on innocent. And Upeksha, he disregards those who are who are envious of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. These are the four qualities of Madhyamadhikari. Then comes Kanistadhikari. What this Kanistadhikari does? Kanistadhikari is the one Archayam Eva Haraye Pujam Ya Shraddayehate Nathad Bhakteshu Chanyeshu Sabhakta Prakrita Smritaha. So Kanishta Adhikari is the one who faithfully engage in the worship of the Lord in the temple, but he does not behave properly towards other devotees or in people in general, is called Prakrita Bhakta or material devotee. And he is considered to be on the lower level. Means he has faith in the Supreme Lord, but he does not show any respect to the Lord devotees, and he doesn't know how to deal with. So these are the few definition of Uttama, Madhyama, Uttama, Madhyama, and Kanishtadhikari. And also in the purport, Prabhupada makes beautiful statements here, like, the first one we already discussed. Again, I'll read here in the second paragraph. He says, a drowning man with heavy weight on his head is sure to go down more swiftly than those who have no heavy weight. So a foolish, puffed up man defies the science of Godhead and says that God has no meaning for him. When he is in the grip of God's law and he is caught by the some disease like cerebral thrombosis, that godless man sinks into the ocean of nescience by the weight of his material acquisition. Then he Prabhupada explains, advancement of material science without God consciousness is a heavy load on head of human society. So then further he gives a pastimes of Maharaj Prataparudra. Maharaja Prataparudra is the king of Orissa during Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had a policy. He would never meet up with aristocrat people, means rich people like kings or any wealthy people, because Mahaprabhu would consider them as Vishayi. Vishayi meaning they are the sense gratifiers. Because, like in Kunti Stuti, Kunti says, Krishna, there are four people, for them, they are very difficult for them to get Krishna. Who are they? Janma, Janmaishwarya, Shrita Shribihi. Janma, Janma means those who are born in, very high class society. Then Janma, Aishwarya, who are wealthy. Shruta, who are well educated. Shribihi, those who are beautiful. These four peoples, for them it is, they are very, Krishna is difficult to attain, because they are puffed up with these four things, with their birth, with their wealth, with their knowledge, and with their beauty. So that's the reason Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would always avoid the association of aristocrat people and wealthy people. And he would consider even this Prataparudra Maharaj also as a Vishayi. Vishayi means the one who is engaged in the sense gratification. Although Maharaj Prataparudra was a great devotee of Jagannath. So, but Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would never give him association. Even he is such a great devotee to the extent, like every year during the Rath Yatra, he comes and he sweeps the street in front of Lord Jagannath. So, such a humble devotee he is. And he wanted to meet Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and he requested Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's personal associates like Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, then Sarup Damodar, and somehow they tried to convince Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, but whenever they would give this proposal of meeting Pratap Rudra with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would become angry and would give up. Then Pratap Rudra also tried with Ramanand Rai. Ramanand Rai was the governor. He was the minister working under Pratap Rudra. And Ramanand Rai also tried, but somehow Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did not give him association. Then finally, what he decided, uh, he instead of he becoming direct, Shishya, direct disciple of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he become like Dasanudasa, like he relieved Ramananda Rai from his job. He said, okay, now you go and you serve Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is my master also, and you serve him, and I'll make sure that you will get your pension and everything, even while sitting at the home. And instead of you serving me, you serve Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So he became like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's servant is Ramanand Rai, Ramanand Rai's servant is Prataparudra. That was his consciousness. And all these devotees like Ramanand Rai, then Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, then Sarup Damodar, they wanted somehow Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to meet Prataprudra. So once they made one trick, like after Jagannath Rath Yatra, so we know like Jagannath Rath Yatra goes from Puri temple to this one place called Gundicha. So it goes there. So when it goes there, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would dance throughout the whole area, and he will get tired. And there's one park near Gundicha temple. So he would go and take rest there. So that time, this Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya tells Prataprudra, you do one thing. So you don't come up with your royal clothes. You don't dress like a king, but instead you come with simple clothes like a devotee, and you come and you start do massage to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu while he was, taking rest. So Prataprudra does the same thing. He goes to that park and while Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is resting, he started massaging Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's feet. At the same time, he started singing Gopi Gita. So then when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he was deep asleep. But when Prataprudra started singing Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, started chanting Gopi Gita, then immediately he awake. Then he started asking, "Who are you?" Then then when he said that, that there's one particular verse which says, "Tava katamrutam tapta jivanam." So in that, the gopis are telling, "Your words are the nectar for those who are suffering in this material world." I mean, the people who spread your message are the most munificent, Burida Jana. When Chaitanya Mahaprabhu heard that verse, he couldn't contain himself. Immediately he come and hugged Prataprudra. In that way, he showed his mercy on Prataprudra. So this is about verse number 22, 21. So now we'll go to the verse number 22. Okay. बहीयते ते नयने नराणां लिङ्गानि विष्णुना निरीक्षतो ये पादौ नृणौ तौ द्रुमजन्मभाजौ क्षेत्रौ अनुव्रजतो हरेर्यौ.
Translation by Srila Prabhupada. Jai Srila Prabhupada. The eyes which do not look at the symbolic representation of the personality of Godhead Vishnu, his form, name, quality, etc., are like those printed on the plumes of the peacock, and the legs which do not move to the holy places where the Lord is remembered are considered to be like the tree trunks. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Especially for the householder devotees, the path of the deity worship is strongly recommended. As far as possible, every householder, by the direction of the spiritual master, must instill the deity of Vishnu, form like Radha Krishna, Lakshmi Narayan, or Sita Rama, especially, or any other form of the Lord like Narasimha, Varaha, Gauranitha, Astya Kurma, Salagram, Sila, and many other forms of Vishnu like Trikrama, Kesava, Achyuta, Vasudeva, Narayana, and Damodara as recommended in the Vaishnava Tantra or Puranas. And one's family should worship strictly following the direction and the regulation of the Archana Vidhi. A member of the family who is above 12 years of age should be initiated by a bona fide spiritual master, and all the members of the household should be engaged in the daily service of the Lord, beginning from morning 4 a.m. till night 10 p.m. by performing Mangala Artika Niranjana Archana Puja Kirtana Sringara Bhoga Vaikali, Sandhya Artika, Pata Bhoga at night, Sanya Artika, etc. Engagement in such worship of the deity under the direction of a bona fide spiritual master will greatly help the householders to purify their very existence and make rapid progress in spiritual knowledge. Simple theoretical book knowledge is not sufficient for a neopathy devotee. Book knowledge is theoretical, whereas the archana process is practical. Spiritual knowledge must be developed by a combination of theoretical and practical knowledge, and that is the guaranteed way for attainment of spiritual perfection. The training of devotional service for a neopathy devotee completely depends on the expert spiritual master who knows how to lead this discipline to make gradual progress towards the path back home, back to Godhead. One should not become a pseudo spiritual master or a master of business to meet one's family expenditures. One must be an expert spiritual master to deliver the discipline, a disciple from the clutches of impending death. Srila Vishwa, Vishwanta Chakravarti Thakur has defined the bona fide qualities of a spiritual master, and one of the verses in the description reads, I will not be able to read this.
Shri Vigraharadhana Nityanana Shringaratan Mandira Marjanado Yuktasya Bhaktamscha Niyunjatopi Vande Guru Shri Charanaravindam.
Sri Vigraha is the Arka or suitable worship. Arka or suitable worshipable form of the Lord, and the disciple should be engaged in worshipping the deity regularly by Shringara, by proper decoration and dressing, as also by Mandira Marjana, the matter of cleansing the temple. A spiritual master teaches the neopathy devotee all these kindly and personally to help him gradually in the realization of the transcendental name, quality, form, etc. of the Lord. Only attention engaged in the service of the Lord, especially in dressing and decorating the temple, accompanied by musical kirtana and spiritual instructions from scriptures, can save the common man from the hellish cinema attraction and rubbish sex songs broadcasted everywhere by radios. If one is unable to maintain a temple at home, he should go to another's temple where all the above performances are regularly executed. Visiting the temple of a deity and looking at the profusely decorated forms of the Lord well dressed in a well decorated, sanctified temple naturally infuses the mundane mind with spiritual inspirations. People should visit holy places like Vrindavan, where such temples and worship of the deity are specifically maintained. Formerly, all rich men like kings and rich merchants constructed such temples under the direction of expert devotees of the Lord, like the 6 Goswamis. And it is the duty of the common man to make and to take advantage of these temples and festivals observed in the holy places of pilgrimage by following in the footsteps of great devotees. Anuvaraj. One should not visit all these sanctified pilgrimage places and temples with sightseeing in mind, but one must go to such temples and sanctified places immortalized by the transcendental pastime of the Lord and be guided by proper men who know these signs. This is called Anuvaraja. Anu means to follow. It is therefore best to follow the instructions of the bona fide spiritual master, even in visiting temples and holy places of pilgrimage. One who does not move in the way is a good as a standing tree condemned by the Lord not to move. The moving tendency of human being is misused by visiting places for sightseeing. The best purpose of such traveling tendencies could be fulfilled by visiting holy places established by great acharyas and thereby not being misled by the atheistic propaganda of money-making men who have no knowledge of spiritual matters. Jai Shri Prabhupada. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Thank you, Prabhu. So in this verse, he's focusing, Sutta Goswami is focusing on two limbs, which is eyes and legs. So the eyes, eyes is meant for seeing. One who is not capable of seeing the Lord, then, his eyes are like, just like a plumes on peacock feather. We have seen like peacock feather is so beautiful, but what's the use of it? It cannot see. Like that, if we don't see the Supreme Personality of Godhead, if we don't visit temple with our leg, and if we don't have the darshan of the Lord, then it's useless. So the seeing is very, very important. So Srila Prabhupada has recommended, all the devotees to have a small temple at home itself, so that every day we can worship that. So, and we can have the darshan arti. Our day starts with 4 a.m. with Mangala Arti, followed by Narsimha Arti, Tulsi Arti. Then we have Shikshastaka chanted, then 16 rounds of japa, then Shringar Arti, then Bhoga, until you have the seva all throughout the days. Like, in one, he also quotes from Shri Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, Shikshastaka. So every day in every temple at 4 a.m., this 8 prayers is sung. Samsara Dhava Nalalida Loka. So where Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is emphasizing on the spiritual master. So the spiritual master is the one who engage in the Archa Vigraha, means deity worship. So he worships the deity so nicely, and also not only he does it, he also engage all his disciples. They dress the deities so beautifully. So we should go to every temple. Wherever which is close to us, we should go to the temple and have darshan with our eyes. So this is what this verse says. Then we move on to verse number 23. Yeah. Jivan chavo bhavatangrirenum na jatu marthyo abhilabetayastu Shri Vishnu padhya manjustulasya Shvasan chavo yastu na veda gandham.
The person who has not at any time received the dust of the feet of the Lord's pure devotee upon his head, is certainly a dead body. And the person who has never experienced the aroma of the tulsi leaves from the lotus feet of the Lord is also a dead body, although breathing. According to Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, the breathing dead body is a ghost. When a man dies, he is called dead. But when he again appears in the subtle form, not visible to our present vision, and yet acts such a dead body is called a ghost. Ghosts are always very bad elements, always creating a fearful situation for others. Similarly, the ghost-like non-devotees who have no respect for the pure devotees, nor the Vishnu deity in the temples, creates a fearful situation for the devotees at all times. The Lord never accepts any offering by such impure ghosts. There is a common saying that one should first love the dog of the beloved before one shows any loving sentiments for the beloved. The stage of pure devotion is attained by sincerely serving a pure devotee of the Lord. The first condition of the devotional service of the Lord is therefore to be the servant of a pure devotee, and this condition is fulfilled by the statement, reception of the dust of the lotus feet of the pure devotee who has also served another pure devotee. That is the way of pure disciplic succession or devotional parampara. Maharaj Rudragana inquired from the great saint Jad Bharat as to how he had attained such a liberated stage of a Paramhansa, and in answer the great saint replied as follows. Rahu Gan Tapasa Nayati, Na Chejya Nirvana Pas Gohoda, Na Chandasa Nev Jalagni Surya, Bina Mahata Padar Jo Abhishekam. O King Rahugana, the perfectional stage of devotional service or the Paramhansa stage of life cannot be attained unless one is blessed by the dust of the feet of the great devotees. It is never attained by tapasya, austerity, the Vedic worshipping process, acceptance of the renounced order of life, the discharge of the duties of the household life, the chanting of the Vedic hymns, or the performance of penances in the hot sun, within cold water or within the before the blazing fire. In other words, Lord Shri Krishna is the property of his pure, unconditional devotees, and as such, only the devotees can deliver Krishna to another devotee. Krishna is never obtainable directly. Lord Chaitanya therefore designated himself as the Gopi Bharut Pada Kamalya Das Dudansya, or the most obedient servant of the servants of the Lord, who maintains the Gopi damsels at Vrindavan. A pure devotee, therefore, never approaches the Lord directly, but tries to please the servant of the Lord's servants. And thus the Lord becomes pleased, and only then can the devotee relish the taste of the tulsi leaves stuck to his lotus feet. In the Brahma Samhita, it is said that a Lord is never to be found by becoming a great scholar in the Vedic literature, but he is very easily approachable through his pure devotee. In Vrindavan, all the pure devotees pray for the mercy of the Srimati Radharani, the pleasure potency of the Lord Krishna. Srimati Radharani is a tender-hearted, feminine counterpart of the Supreme Whole, resembling the perfectional stage of the worldly feminine nature. Therefore, the mercy of Radharani is available very readily to the sincere devotees, and once she recommends such a devotee to the Lord Krishna, the Lord at once accepts the devotee's admittance into his association. The conclusion is therefore that one should be more serious about seeking the mercy of the devotee than that of the Lord directly, and by once doing so, by the goodwill of the devotee, the natural attraction for the service of the Lord will be revived. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Sushil Prabhu. So in this verse, it's talking about a person. A person who has not at any time received the dust of the feet of the Lord, pure devotees upon his head, is certainly a dead body. So the dust from the lotus feet of the devotees is so great. So that's the reason all acharyas, they want to take the dust. Like we have a concept in our religion, in our so we invite sadhus to our home and we do the Patha Puja. Means we worship their lotus feet. I'm sure you all have done, your parents must have done in wherever you are there. So the significance of that is that. So when the devotees comes, we take their uh, dust from their lotus feet. So it is stated the dust of the lotus feet is so value, especially the dust of Vraja, the Rajaduli is so significant. So one bit of dust from the Raja is, it cannot be compared with many, many Vaikunta planets. Such is the glories of this dust of Raja, and also the dust from the lotus feet of devotees. So it's advised we should take dust from the lotus feet of the devotees. Also, like in Prabhupada gives the example of Jada Bharata. Jada Bharata, we know he's the same Bharat Maharaj who was ruling the company, who was ruling the whole world, and because of him, this earthly planet has become Bharat Varsha, and so he gave up everything, and so at the fag end of his life he was in the ashrama. So but while living in the ashrama he got attracted to a deer. So then while leaving his body, because he constantly meditated on the deer, so he took birth as a deer in his next birth. But because of all his previous devotional service, even though he was in dear body, he would always stay near the sage's ashram. and in the next body he took took as Jada Bharata. So Jada Bharata, he was like, people discarded him. He was like a lazy, and he was unintelligent person. His father tried to give him Brahminical initiation, but nothing goes to his head. And he was doing all, menial jobs. His brothers were exploiting him. And once, the Rahuguna was the king. He was being carried on the palanquin by four people, but one person become sick. Then he wanted one another person. So they found this Rahuguna who was very hale and healthy. They took him to lift his palanquin along with three more. So while he was doing, then so he would see the ants down. Immediately this Jadabharata would jump. So this was causing a lot of inconvenience to the king who was sitting on the palanquin. Then finally, he's a king. He chastised Jadabharat. Then so afterwards, Rahuguna, the king Rahuguna, realized he is not an ordinary person. Then he asked him, "So who are you?" That time he spoke. He says, this verse. He says, Then Rahuguna asks him, "How did you get this knowledge?" Then he says, "I took from the dust from the lotus feet of the devotees, so until so then he become elevated." So that is what it's mentioned in this. And also at the same time we should take the load uh, the aroma from the tulsi leaves. This also beautiful analogy. Like we know that four kumaras, right? The four kumaras were initially they were brahmavadis. They were not devotees, but one time they were roaming in the Vaikunta planet. So when they went there, the load, the smell, aroma from the tulsi leaves, which was put on the Lord Vishnu's garland, so that attracted them. There's a beautiful verse. Tasya Ravinda Nayanasya Padharavindam. So, so that is the beauty of this aroma from the tulasi. Okay, so these 2 points are covered in this verse. Now we'll move on to the verse number 24. Yeah. Tadashma saram hrudayam bathedam yadgrahyamadir harinama dehaye na vikriyeta yada vikaro netre jalam gatra ruheshu harshaha.
Hare Krishna. Anybody wants to read, or can I go ahead?
I think you can go ahead, bro.
Yeah. Translation, Hare Krishna. Certainly, that heart is still framed, which, in spite of one's chanting the holy name of the Lord with concentration, does not change when ecstasy takes place. Tears fill the eyes with the hairs stand on end. Purport. We should note with profit that in the first 3 chapters of the second canto, a gradual process of development of devotional service is being presented. In the first chapter, the first step in devotional service for God consciousness by the process of hearing and chanting has been stressed, and a gross conception of the personality of Godhead in his universal form for the beginners is recommended. By such a gross conception of God, through the material manifestations of his energy, one is enabled to spiritualize the mind and the senses and gradually concentrate the mind upon Lord Vishnu, the Supreme, who is present as a super soul in every heart and everywhere in every atom of the material universe. The system of Pancha Upasana, recommending the 5 mental attitudes for the common man, is also enacted for this purpose, namely gradual development, worship of the superior that may be in the form of fire, electricity, the sun, the mass of living beings, Lord Shiva, and at last the impersonal super soul, the partial representation of Lord Vishnu. They are all nicely described in the second chapter, but in the third chapter, further development is prescribed after one has actually reached the stage of Vishnu worship, or pure devotional service, and the mature stage of Vishnu worship is suggested here in relation to the change of heart. The whole process of spiritual culture is aimed at chanting the heart of the living being in the matter of his eternal relation with the Supreme Lord as subordinate servant, which is his eternal constitutional position. So, with the progress of devotional service, the reaction of change in the heart is exhibited by gradual detachment from the sense of material enjoyment, by a false sense of lording it over the world, and an increase in the attitude of rendering loving service to the Lord. Vidhi Bhakti are a regulated devotional service by the limbs of the body, namely the eyes, the ears, the nose, the hands, and the legs, as already explained herein before, is now stretched here in relation to the mind, which is the impetus for all activities of the limbs of the body. It is expected by all means that by discharging regulated devotional service, one must manifest the change of heart. If there is no such change, the heart must be considered steel framed, for it is not melted even when there is a chanting of the holy name of the Lord. We must always remember that hearing and chanting are the basic principles of discharging devotional duties, and if they are properly performed, there will follow the reactional ecstasy with signs of tears in the eyes of standing of the hairs on the body. These are natural consequences and are the preliminary symptoms of the bhava stage, which occurs before one reaches the perfectional stage of prema, love of Godhead. In the reaction, if the reaction does not take place, even after continuous hearing and chanting of the holy name of the Lord, it may be considered to be due to offenses only. That is the opinion of the Sandarbha. In the beginning of chanting of the holy name of the Lord, if the devotee has not been very careful about evading the 10 kinds of offenses at the feet of the holy name, certainly the reaction of feelings of separation will not be visible, but tears in the eyes and standing of the hair on the end. The bhava stage is manifested by 8 transcendental symptoms, namely inertness, perspiration, standing of hairs on end, failing in the voice, trembling, paleness of the body, tears in the eyes, and finally trance. The Nectar of Devotion, a summary study of Srila Rupa Goswami's Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, explains those symptoms and vividly describes other transcendental developments, both in steady and accelerating manifestations. Srila Vishwanatha Chakravarti Thakura has very critically discussed all these bhava displays in connection with some unscrupulous neophytes imitating the above symptoms for cheap occupation. Not only Vishwanatha Chakravarti, but also Srila Rupa Goswami treated them very critically. Sometimes all the above 8 symptoms of ecstasy are imitated by the mundane devotees, Prakta Sahajiyas. But the pseudo symptoms are not at once detected when one sees the pseudo devotee addicted to so many forbidden things. Even though decorated with the signs of a devotee, a person addicted to smoking, drinking, or illegitimate sex with women cannot have all the above mentioned ecstatic symptoms. But it is seen that sometimes these symptoms are willfully imitated. And for this reason, Srila Vishwanatha Chakravarti accuses the imitators of being stone-hearted men. They are sometimes even affected by the reflection of such transcendental symptoms. Yet, if they still do not give up the forbidden habits, then they are hopeless cases for transcendental realization. When Lord Chaitanya met Srila Ramananda Raya of Kavur on the bank of Godavari, the Lord developed all these symptoms. But because of the presence of some non-devotee Brahmanas who were attendants of the Raya, the Lord suppressed these symptoms. So sometimes they are not visible even in the body of the first-class devotee for certain circumstantial reasons. Therefore, real steady bhava is definitely displayed in the matter of cessation of material desires. Shanti. Utilization of every moment in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. Avyartha Kalatvam. Eagerness for glorifying the Lord constantly. Nama gain Sadaruchi. Attraction for living in the land of the Lord. It is Tad Vasati Stehel. Complete detachment from material happiness, virakti, and pridelessness, mana sunyata. One who has developed all these transcendental qualities is really possessed of the bhava stage, as distinguished from the stone-hearted imitator or mundane devotee. The whole process can be summarized as follows. The advanced devotee who chants the holy name of the Lord in a perfectly offenseless manner and is friendly to everyone can actually release the transcendental taste of glorifying the Lord. And the result of such realization is reflected in the cessation of all material desires, etc., as mentioned above. The neophytes, due to their being in the lower stage of devotional service, are invariably envious, so much so that they invent their own ways and means of devotional regulations without following the acharyas. As such, even if they make the show of constantly chanting the holy name of the Lord, they cannot release the transcendental taste of the holy name. Therefore, the show of tears in the eyes, trembling, perspiration, unconsciousness, etc., is condemned. They can, however, get in touch with a pure devotee of the Lord and rectify their bad habits. Otherwise, they shall continue to be stone hearted and unfit for any treatment. A complete progressive march on the return path home back to Godhead will depend on the instructions of the revealed scriptures directed by a realized devotee. Jai Srila Prabhupada.
Yeah, thank you, Prabhu. That's this long purport. So the thing is, like, if a devotee, if his heart does not melt, then he's considered as having a, his heart is, like stone heart we call, no? It's a hard heart, you can say. So, means his heart is the stale framework. Srila Prabhupada went to America in 1966 in the steamer, in a cargo ship. He went to America, and there he landed in a place called Boston. So Boston Harbor, he landed, and he came out of the ship. Then he saw a big billboard stating that it is a unalloyed. Unalloyed means, it's a unalloyed means you cannot break. So then immediately Prabhupada taught, then he prayed to Krishna, "Oh Krishna, you brought me here, whose heart is like a unalloyed steel. So how am I going to preach to these people? How I can penetrate through their heart? Because in this whole purport, it's talked about a person with a steel-framed heart. He cannot have any emotions. So that's, that was, he prayed to his spiritual master and Krishna. Then we know the history. Though people could not able to understand his Bengali accent English, but they become his followers. And today we see, we are creating Viplava, revolution in the whole universe. The Hare Krishna explosion and so many things are happening. That is because of Srila Prabhupada purity. So here in the main gist of this purport is like in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Srila Rupa Goswami gives 8 symptoms of devotional service, starting from Shraddha to Prema. It says, Adav Shraddha Tata Sadhu Sangha Atha Bhajana Kriya Tata Anavarti Nivrittisya Tato Nishta Ruchis Tata Atha Sakti Tata Bhavaha Tata Prema Vidanchati Sadhakana Mayam Premna Pradurbhave Bhavet Kramaha. It stated that first stage is Shraddha. Then, because he has got a Shraddha, he associates with sadhus, sadhu sangha. Then sadhus will tell him to do bhajana kriya, means devotional practice. When he does, his heart gets getting cleansed. That is anartha nivrutti. Then he become nishta. Then he get attached to it. He develop a asakti to it. Then he get a ruchi. Then he gets the prema, and finally it's the bhava. These are the 7 symptoms. So also it stated that when you reach to the stage of bhava, technically it is called as ashta sattvika bhava. There are 8 types of transformation happens within our body. Like, you start immediately, your eyes are flooded with with tears. Then, your hair on your body gets tanned. Then your throat will choke up. All these symptoms will happen. It happens for the pure devotees, but we need not to superficially practice that. sometimes also we all experience, right? When you are in a good kirtan, or when you hear some wonderful pastime of the Lord spoken by the great devotee, it touches our heart, then then our eyes will get wet. These are the symptoms of bhava. So so one should have such kind of attitude when we listen to the Krishna Katha. So that is a symptom of change in heart. That is the crux of this verse. Now we are moving to the last verse of the day. Yeah. अथाभिदेह्यङ्गमनोनुकूलम् प्रभाससे भगवता प्रदानः यदा हवैयासखीरात्मविद्या विशारदो नृप्तिं साधु पृष्ठः.
Translation by Srila Prabhupada. Jai Srila Prabhupada. O Sutta Goswami, your words are pleasing to our minds. Please therefore explain this to us as it was spoken by the great devotee Sukadeva Goswami, who is very expert in transcendental knowledge and who spoke to Maharaja Parikshit upon being asked. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Jai Srila Prabhupada. Knowledge explained by the previous Acharya like Sukadev Goswami and followed by the next like Sutta Goswami is always powerful transcendental knowledge, and it is therefore penetrating and useful to all submissive students. Thus end the Bhakti Vedanta purports of the second canto, third chapter of Srila Bhagavatam, entitled Pure Devotional Service, the Change in Heart. Jai Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Uday Prabhu. So in this verse, Sutta Goswami, Shaunaka Rishi is requesting Sutta Goswami to speak more about the pastimes. He is glorifying Shukadeva Goswami, who has spoken this. He is glorifying both Shukadeva Goswami as Parikshit. So because such a wonderful conversation has been occurred between those two of them. So today we are all sitting and hearing to this wonderful conversation. So he's thanking them and he's glorifying them, and also he wants to listen more about these pastimes, which will be done from the next week onwards with the next chapter. Thank you so much for your kind hearing, and if any mistakes you found, please, it's my mistake. So if you like something, all the glories will go to Srila Prabhupada and our Guru Maharaj and all our Acharyas. Grantraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Nitai Premanande. So you can say any questions or any comments.
Prabhu, regarding this use of senses, I think Bhagavatam was Bhagavad Gita 2.61 was very nicely King Amrish Maharaj.
Yes. Savai Mana Krishna Padara Vindayoho Vachamsi Vaikunta Gunanuvarnane. Yes. Yeah. So Amrish Maharaj, he used all the senses, all the limbs in the service of the Lord. So yeah, Uday Prabhu, that's wonderful. Thank you. Thank you, Sushil Prabhu, for bringing that. So I thought of covering that because of the time just I skipped.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Wonderful lecture. I couldn't hear fully, but my ears were here. Anybody has any question?
No, Prabhu. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Prabhu. Wonderful. Thank you so much. So
thank you, Prabhuji.
Yeah. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya evacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo ananta koti vaishnavande ki jai Srila Prabhupada.
Jai.
Hare Krishna. Thank you all.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.